Hey y'all, grown black folks talk. Not quite sure what to call this yet, but I guess it really rolls down to don't listen to men who are disconnected from their own image, much less yours. Um, True Mystique followed up on Aaron Davis's video with another fine comment, and I kind of had this on my mind and then read this and I thought to myself, okay, wait, how many other black billionaires are there that Tyler Perry should know about? For him to say that black women are earning more than black men, that means that he doesn't know how many more black men who are billionaires there are than black women. That number is sizable, y'all. But let me first read True Mystique's comment into the record because I thought that it really epitomizes what was kind of going around in my own mind. She wrote on this video, what a lot of these black men need to understand is that a lot of these black male celebrities are not on their side. They don't think too highly of them. Why doesn't billionaire Tyler Perry encourage and show black men how they too can make it to his status or something similar? Why doesn't he encourage black men to step up and do more for their families? See, had a whole fire engine come by at that thought. Um, they want for black men to be in the permanent underclass, the way I see it. They don't want their brothers to be up there in status with them. They want to be the token. If that's them, fine. But I wish they would leave black women out of it and tell us that we must settle for the bare minimum. No, sir, I will not. Lisa Renee said he's literally saying he has no faith in black men. Like, I thought about, before even seeing those two comments, I had thought about something. It's just like, Mr. Perry, do you know that you're not the only black male billionaire? It's just like, you're the new member of the club. You're in the low billionaire status compared to some of the others. Now, we do know that billionaire Herman Cain passed away in 2020. Uh, Former presidential candidate, uh, Trump supporter, was at a rally, got COVID, and left here. That brought the number down by one. But, in Tyler Perry's own media field, Bob Johnson and Byron Allen over there, the three of them, all the stuff we have going back and forth about what's on sale in terms of channels and media and all the rest, the three of them combined could change that very quickly. Michael Jordan, some time ago, tipped on over into the billionaire class as well. So that's at least five. I've heard numbers between 8 and 16. Robert Smith is still out there. So um, none of these men were born into the kind of generational wealth opportunities that other billionaires have. Now, numbers on total billionaires, that's around 540, I think, across the world, and a lot of those live in the United States. But, none of these men had the same advantages. But if Tyler Perry shows you anything, if Byron Allen shows you anything, if Michael Jordan shows you anything, Bob Johnson, Robert Smith, um, black men are able to become quote unquote self-made first generation billionaires by virtue of their own ingenuity, by virtue of their own labor. So if Tyler Perry cared about black men, that's actually what he would be talking about. But True Mystique has a point, and I think it's even deeper than in Tyler Perry's case than it appears. Confidence with Love shared a concept with Black Women Minding My Business and I. Uh, the godling concept. Some black men who are you notice that they don't have any black male friends, but they have a great number of black female friends, are basically wanting to enjoy godling status. In other words, they're being what the Greeks and the Romans would call demigod status. You can't get access to a god of your own, but you can have a good demigod instead. Godling status kind of goes with that. A black man willing to be, a black man that black women are worshipped to follow and exalt as the nearest thing they can have to a connection of God of their own. And I think this is very apt because if you are worshiping a mortal man, you certainly have no real contact with the true and living God, who basically said, don't even think about putting something in the creation in my spot, nor do you have any connection with any of the other spirit beings, as the Bible just says, who are God's many and Lord's many. And I should say, because confidence with love is in the conversation, goddesses many and ladies many, um, in that general classification. So you clearly have no connection with any real spirituality if this is what you're doing. There was a particular man in particular who we were referring to, but I will suppress his name because this ain't none of his fault. We're going to go back to Tyler Perry. But there's something else going on, and this is the real gem of the conversation that I want to give you. I was uh, I was a professional journalist, but I went back to school to become a teacher. And so, as becoming a teacher, I had to study child development. And as I was studying child development, I learned something very interesting. And I apply it when we see people like Tyler Perry. What is supposed to happen as part of human development, and oftentimes this happens among our siblings in terms of our socialization. The first step for the human being is to become self conscious of who they are. That often manifests in what's called the terrible twos, when this being discovers that he or she has a will of his or her own and can say no, which is basically the will expressing itself. This is the first age where people realize that they have a separate consciousness from their parents. But then they learn how to relate in loving ways with, but now, because see, now you have a question of will. It's not completely developed, but now learning how to choose to love older people, parents, how to respond to figures of authority in a loving way. Ideally, we know that there's problems that happen all along here. If a boy does not have his father or a daughter her mother, there will be an absence of that modeling. If a girl does not have her father or a daughter her no, if a girl does not have her father or a boy his mother, there will be a lack in opposite parent socialization. And that'll cause trouble later. We'll get there. So they learn how to relate to male and female members of the human race first through their parents and their older relatives, grandparents, aunties, and uncles. And they will learn how to develop uh, relationships with human beings their own age through their siblings. But in terms of forming friendship bonds outside the family, the correct order is the first thing you do is develop friendships with people who are in your own image, in other words, share the same gender image, and then across to the opposite gender, and then from those ability to develop friendships, then the romantic relationships will begin. So we have personal self actualization as a human being. We have the beginning of developing friends and family relationships within the family unit. Then we have going outside to the same sex first and then to the opposite. That's the ideal form. Now, we know in the Black community that because of the specific nature of how Africans were brought to America, all this has been scrambled up. We've never had the ideal. But here's what I notice about Tyler Perry. Name for me a strong connection with a Black male friend that Tyler Perry has, and name for me collaborators in his own group. I mean, there's near billionaires too. Like Will Smith is close. Um, there's people that are close. So if you don't have an exact billion, it's more than 5 or 6 people he could be working with. There's people close by. But if you really kind of watch him, you don't see that kind of connect. Now, some of what goes on with our men is that if that first strong male relationship isn't with the father, the friend group ends up taking the place. So you have a patriarchy between men who are friends in a very unhealthy way because they're looking to this amorphous peer group for fathering, essentially, and they can't do it for each other because they don't have the stature and wisdom. They're all peers. But you see this a lot in fatherless young men. But that's also why the opinion of this amorphous group of equally damaged friends has so much weight. Black women who are raised by single mothers don't tend to have this because, however poorly or well, it's still filled by their moms and their grandmoms. Black boys don't get to do that if their home is fatherless. So, and even if the home is motherless, a Black man will find it easier to find Black women who will try to fill the gap. I've been that person. Then it will be for a Black mother to find safe Black men to fill that same gap Because again, you have an environment in which the men are encouraging each other to have the kids and run. A subject we're not going to talk about is Jeezy and Jenny Mai. That whole situation. Uh, we got what we wanted out of the situation. We done reproduced. Now we're going to divorce and walk off. We don't know if this is the exact situation in that case. That's a complicated little matter that I don't have time to do the research on. But I'm just saying the patterning in terms of divorce rates between Black men and anybody tends to kind of follow this pattern. But here's the deal. When you deal with Black men such as Tyler Perry, what you really need to look at is my dad's out there bonding with our male neighbors today. You may be able to hear that in the background. Um, one of the things that you will begin to notice is that these men do not have good relationships with men. If you had good relationship with men, you would probably think about not throwing 15 million Black men under the bus. Because Tyler Perry did say that Black women are supposed to settle for men that, earn 5 times less and might be able to pay a light bill and take you out to dinner from time to time, and that's supposed to be your lifetime lot, which means he doesn't believe that Black men have the same ability that he does, even though there are between 8 and 16 Black male billionaires and multiple okay, I'm just thinking about your NBA numbers plus your NFL numbers, so you got multiple high millionaires and you've got enough billionaires to show you that Black men can, by their own ingenuity, come up. So if you cared about Black men, if you had strong connections with Black men as a Black man, you would be talking about, here's how we help Black men close these gaps. Here's what I did. Here's some on ramps I'm going to give you. Here's some things that I can do, because instead of saying Black women that y'all are hopeless and they just have to marry down and be hopeless with you, what we can do is say, okay, here are some aspects and things to consider in order to step up. Robert Smith, I think, if memory serves, it's been a little while, did make some scholarships available for Black men who went to certain HBCUs so that they could what? Step up. Byron Allen is out here trying to get media channels together so that Black people can see images of themselves stepping up. At least that seems to be that seems to be a storyline I'm getting. So there's men that Tyler Perry could work with in his own class of people, but instead, here he comes. Because as Truman Steake said, he does not want to see Black men at his level. He wants to be the token. Confidence with Love would say he wants to be the godling. I'm just saying there's something wrong in how Tyler Perry relates with men, period, because of all the things that he might have done. Yeah, he might not have been as successful if he had played Paw Paw. See, my family has strong Medeas and strong Paw Paws. I grew up in a balanced patriarchy. The men are definitely in charge, but in a Christian family, you kind of expect that. God the Father. And he has had men in his image that represented him well. But it's just like if you wanted to add balance back, you could also have a Medea and a Pawpaw. That could have been interesting. I don't know who that, I mean, but that could have been interesting. That actually could have been interesting. But see, he doesn't have those strong formative relationships with a older Black man that he could portray like that. And if you look at how he associates and how he moves, you see that he's not connected. And I'm saying this shows that something has gone wrong in the way Tyler Perry thinks about himself as a man and in his connection with Black men. And ladies, if a man cannot connect with himself and his brothers, you have no chance with him. The romance I don't talk about, because I did love this man dearly, and he was decent in many respects. He really was. But he located his father and reconnected with the men in his family when we were pretty much already on the rocks. It was not his connection with women. He had plenty around. He would have qualified as a bona fide musical godling for certain, with the kind of skill that he had. But that lack of strong paternal mentoring meant that there were certain things. I remember one of the things he said to me. He said, the fact that I know that you love me despite my situations makes me want to do more for you. But the thing was, he didn't know how to grab that gap. And there was no way for me to fill it. It had to be filled by a man. Tyler Perry apparently has never encountered a father and a husband that he wanted to be like. For he is a father without being a husband. And he puts down all possibility that Black men can do a good job in leading their families and stepping up to a point where Black women do not have to step down by a factor of 5. I guess this is going to be the title of the video. Don't take advice with men who don't even know how to respect their fellow men. Because if a man doesn't even know how to respect his own image, the way men go hard for each other, there's no possibility that he is going to be able to respect or love a woman. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. It doesn't please me to say that because I'm sitting up here and I'm thinking about the even Kevin Samuels, for all the anger that people have with him, did put down there on the list of the high value man that he has to have a network of men. So even though Tyler Perry has the $1.2 billion, he would fall off of even Kevin Samuels' rubric right there. And Kevin Samuels' rubric starts at $100,000. So a man with $101,000, a Black man with $101,000 and strong networks of men around him is of higher value than a man with $1.2 billion who only has women around him without a strong network. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying that if you're falling off of Kevin Samuels' metric, yeah, that's that's a low bar to step off of. But I will say this, because remember when I told you about human development? I remember growing up, my father had men that he was accountable to. I mean, I didn't realize that growing up, but he had men that he could go who were older than himself, who had been married longer, who had been parents longer, whose children were older than us, and he had people he could talk to, multiple races, by the way, because we live in San Francisco. So Dad was good at making friends across racial lines as a longshoreman and also as a Bible teacher. And I remember him talking to these men about all kinds of different things, but they helped each other stay on track. My father has good relationship with men. Now he's got a family full of women. Let's see, my mom, my sister, myself, my grandmother. He spent a lot of his time around us, but he also managed to stay connected with other men. He was on good terms with his brother and the uncles that he had left, although they were much, much older and they were passing away rapidly by the time I remember much of anything. He had good, solid relationships with men. I remember that growing up. Now he's outlived almost all of them. But he checks in. Now he has mentees, and he knows that they're watching him to figure out how they're supposed to be doing as men. And the youngest of them is 30. So there is a sense in which I notice my father is deeply involved in the lives of men and has them involved in his life so that there is an accountability among men. The other reason I made this video now is because I just came from a Bible study which covers 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, men, women, and children. Now, we all adults are all co-teaching with the children that we have on, but we're connected with each other across generations in a very real way. There is respect and there is love, men with women, boys and girls, us for each other. So you have basically, because of the way that you have a parent age and you have a grandfather age and you have a grandmother age. So we have the whole thing linked up so that the boys and the girls have someone to connect with. And it's interesting, they relate to each of us kind of differently because of the age group and where we kind of fit in. And I had the phone number of all the parents, but they don't figure the two older ones, like grandparents generally aren't as hard on you. So we're able to kind of extend the family relationships so that these young people will not feel disconnected from adult males or adult females, not from the image of themselves in adulthood. Okay? I see between the children of all these people that they are not disconnected from their own group, and it makes it more likely, though not necessarily because people are getting a lot of bad information very early, that they might be able to then connect successfully with the opposite. I have noticed among my students who are now in their 20s, most of them are doing well with this. We have some marriages that are holding on, that are lasting. And then my generation, those who got married, about 50-50. But our church was going through a heck of a lot more then. But the idea is the ideal relationships in terms of how we develop as human beings among ourselves. We're all still African American apart. I have some biracial students now. But because those developmental gaps are being filled, the trouble is not as severe. Again, Tyler Perry is a 50-plus-year-old man who had a child just to say that he could do it, but had no interest in building a family. 50 plus. But then again, as one of my former love interests said, all you women want marriage, but how are we even supposed to know what a successful model is to do that? He would have qualified. It was before Kevin Samuel said all that, but he would have qualified as a high value man too. And that was the conversation. Y'all know that didn't work out either, right? Because ladies, we can't love them across these kind of gaps. These type of men need to find men like my father who actually care about their brothers and their sons, who had men who were fathers to them, and friends who were fatherly, wise advisors to them, and had peers who were mentored by these men, and therefore could pass that wisdom around and increase it as they grew in Christ and grew in age and experience. These lost boys, if you will need to go and find the men they need to find in order to become full-grown, mature men. I can tell you from experience, we cannot love them across that gap. Tyler Perry shows you that money does not matter. He was right. He just didn't know how right he was. This is a man who has problems just like many men do in their relationships with men, beginning with their absent fathers. And when I say absent, I don't just mean, of course, outside the home, sure, but also fathers who were not fully able, who had never fully actualized, and therefore could not be fully present as a mature man to their children. And because those gaps were not filled then, we see both the abnormality of how they connect with men in later life, either too far to one side, where the opinions of your toxic boys mean more than right and wrong or anything else in the world, but also to the absence of all of it, to where you don't have a good perspective of who you are as a man, so therefore you cannot give good advice to men or women. And I know people are gonna talk about how influential Tyler Perry is. That is not a good thing. That's a disaster. Because people tend to legitimize whatever they see on screen. Consider what I'm saying. This was a little bit more complex. I decided I would just go on and record this while I was thinking about it. I have so much stuff I have to get done in this next 3 weeks. It's not even funny. But I wanted to round our conversation about this issue off in a way that gave us something to think about that we can carry forward. Ladies, check your man for his connection with healthy men. If he doesn't have any, forget it. Just forget it. How hard is that in the Black community? Well, I mean, really, let's just break this down this way. That is agnostic for race. Check your man's connection with healthy men if his group of men colonize a third of the world. Make sure that the men that you deal with from that particular community are not still trying to justify colonization and enslavement on a mass level. Okay. Check your man is connected with healthy men if he happens to come from a community where there's a five-step caste system based on race and a woman is at the bottom of all of them, thereby you as a black woman, a Negrita woman, will be at the absolute bottom. If you're with a Latino man, you need to check for that. Check your man if he is associated in any way with the group of people that is presently colonizing Africa and who had the Asian scientists that Kevin Samuels wanted to call on to show that black women are actually the least attractive. That takes care of China and Japan. And if you like Vivek Ramaswamy, we're going to throw Indians in there as well, because if you ever go and you look at the group of the people that called untouchables versus the Aryan, you will find the same division of black and white, the same caste system, just a little bit older. You need to check and make sure your man is involved with actually healthy men who value humanity if you're getting with an Asian. Do I need to explain this if you with a black man? If you're thinking about a black man, do I need to explain it? Y'all go ahead. We're not gonna cover it here, but y'all go ahead and check on Shirley Strawberry and Ernesto Williams if you need me. Well, he calls himself Nesto. Ernest Williams, if y'all need to catch up on that. We're not gonna cover that here. But background checks are a must. If you with a man, not only does he need to be connected with healthy men, you better find out if he is 1 in 3 men that you deal with is going to be an actual bona fide convicted felon, not a misdemeanor now. We talking about snatch your civil rights for the rest of your life type crimes. And yes, black men are the most exonerated. That is correct. But in the meantime, in between time, if you did jail time, you were exposed to things that you have changed the way you look at the world, and you come back to a community where your boys are going to encourage you to take advantage of women. So we will make this race agnostic. You need to know if your man is connected with healthy men who are progressing in life and who have views on the humanity of all human beings before you even get to women. Do they even have good connections with each other as men? Are they progressive? Are they building? Are they growing? Are they healing? Are they doing therapy? Are they doing life coaching? Are they actually accomplishing anything? Are they codependent? Do they look at each other for what they should be doing? Are they secondhand men? Do they need each other to co-sign and prove everything that they do? In any race, you need to know. All right, think about it, y'all. Have a good day now. Bye.